What is up, my friends? Jesse with Just Man Sports Cards. Today, we're going to talk about consolidation. As you can probably tell from the title and the thumbnail, I have some thoughts on it. Jot them down so I can stay on track, be concise, hopefully give some tips, and basically what made me think of this. Kind of what sparked it is I've been wanting to do it for quite a while, but there was two main drivers. Around Christmas time, the New Year, I always do my top 50 cards. It's a really good time to kind of sit down and evaluate my top 50 cards, but then I also kind of take a bigger look at my collection. And everything I've ever bought, I put into a Google Sheets, what I paid for it, how many I have of them. Some cards I have like multiple PSA 8s, PSA 9s, cards that I really believe in. And so now I can look at that and tell how many lines I have. I could also sum up the cards, but I just look at the sheet as total lines, and that is kind of my collection. And then I also track what I paid for them, and I look at that as kind of the value and a little bit of how I track that. Say I bought two PSA Michael Jordan cards. I paid $50 each. The value goes up. I sell one for 80. I net like 75, something like that. I'll subtract that 75 and minus the one. So then my cost in my sheet has came down to essentially zero. Oh no. The computer in the background was providing quite a bit of light. There we go. I'll have to keep track of that. So that's how I keep track of my collection. But what kind of so I've been wanting to move into bigger cards and have fewer cards. This has been kind of hard to do that. What a lot of people recommend is just grouping up a bunch of cards and sending them to auction. I don't like that for two reasons. Is it can easily be a bloodbath on some of those cards. I collect some esoteric rare stuff, and people just are still finding out about it. So I really don't want to take the L that way. Um, so that's been a challenge. So it goes slower. But the other big reason is I sat down with my partner, and we were talking around New Year's. We always talk about like what we want to do in the next year, what we really enjoyed the last year, vacations, how retirement's coming. I'm only 44. She's actually younger than me by 7 years, but we still discuss that. And as our relationship's gotten more serious, we've been together 14 years. Uh, I just wanted to be open in the air about everything. She's very patient with how I have cards everywhere. Uh, I was just like, hey, do you have any idea of like the value of the cards that I have? And I thought that was important just in case something was to happen to me. Is like she wouldn't just give away all these cards. I think she was a little more knowledgeable than that, but to have a much better idea. And I think this is something a lot of people hide from their significant other is the true value that they've sank into this hobby. And it can be really hard to track if you haven't tracked everything in an Excel sheet. If I didn't have that Excel sheet, I would have guessed the number was half of what it actually is. Um, so I just let her guess a couple times, and then I told her. And a surprise to me, she really didn't care that I had that much money into it. But the thing she did care about is how many cards there were. So just thinking of like if something sudden and tragic was to happen to me, which would be horrible, it would be more of a chore than like a celebration of something that I had left behind. And I think that's a way that a lot of people fail to realize that these big collections is they're just so big and there's so many little cards that you're leaving kind of almost a burden on the other person to kind of figure it out. Obviously, they could take it all and send it to auction, but there's that can be kind of difficult too if they don't know what they're doing. So I really that sparked me there. Um, so then I developed a game plan, and in that game plan, basically what I knew what I wanted to do is just start somewhere and that goal was to reduce the total lines in my document by 10% and the total value that I had invested by 10%. So two goals, and I had to meet both of those goals. Um, and this is kind of the title is like consolidating is a bitch, just because it can be a lot of work if you have a lot of cards, but it's also caring that like leaving your doing a better job of curating your collection and leaving something behind that's much more manageable. So I just want to be mindful of that, and I think there's something to that, and I think if you really focus on it, you have to put a lot of work into it. You're going to end up with better cards, right? And trying to figure that out. So some other notes: raw versus graded. My raw, I basically I used to track it like if I paid $1 for a card, I entered it as $1 a card, and now kind of how I do it is I just have like a bulk buy list for raw cards, and anything that I paid less than $10 for, I just kind of I group into that category, and then as I sell stuff, and that line typically disappears pretty quickly, just through like COMC and sales and stuff like that on there. But if I paid like $10 or more over there of the card, most likely I'm going to grade it. So if some of these Jordan Raws can be a couple $100, Shaqs can be 20 to $40, $60 for a nice one. So anything basically over 10, I put the card and I put the value and the player and all that jazz in the year. And then when I go to grade it, I add in the grading fee and then I add the grade and then I have the total value that I have into that card. And that's kind of how I track that. But over the years, probably the past 4 years, I quit tracking stuff individually for under $10. It just saves a bunch of time. It's much easier. And then with Raw, I told you how that. And then something I've noticed some other collectors that have like a really confined collection and really focused, they'll even put the date they purchased. And I think that's kind of cool to see how long it's lived in your collection. And then to see potentially how the price has moved throughout the years. I'm not to that point. Maybe and I'm noticing that as like as you consolidate more, you have a better idea of everything that you have, and you can kind of manage. Everything gets easier. Um, Another way to think about it is just for yourself. I think a good thing to ask is like how many two-row boxes of graded cards that do you have? I kind of have a personal collection. Um, it's a decent amount of two rows, but then I have a decent amount of two rows of stuff that I've graded that I kind of sell. And then another thing to think about is wax. I don't have a huge wax collection, but it doesn't take much, and it starts to take up quite a bit of space. I actually sold a wax box today, a pretty sought after one. Um, I just didn't see the value probably moving that much in the next couple of years. So in the next 2 to 3 years, I didn't see it moving 20%. I could be wrong as those boxes dry up, but wax to leave that behind, it's kind of a bugger to ship. You really got to package it up right to not damage it, and that takes quite a bit of work. Where a graded card is a little easier to package up and ship. So wax is kind of something I don't want to leave behind. And I want to be much more focused on my wax collection. So consolidating everything raw as well. This week, I probably consolidated my raw collection by 30%. So I did a nice job on that this week. Um, so another thing that I did this year is I shipped almost like 150 cards back from PWCC, stuff I had bought through auctions over the last 4 years. It was twofold. Uh, Cards on their like buy it now feature, they don't sell. It sucks. I'll tell you that straight up. They can say differently. They have these weird features where if you're not within what they believe is 10% market, they charge you more. I didn't like it at all. especially for cards that you want at a really good value. Uh, it's just not a good. They don't have a good system for buy it now. To put it frankly, um, I don't think it's gotten better with Fanatics at all. I actually have some beef with them, and that was so. Then I wanted a greater control over being able to sell those 150 cards, so that I can start to consolidate those 150 cards. So I shipped those back. Another thing is, I won a pretty big card there. Some stuff went down that I wasn't completely happy with. I reached out to some resolution teams, um, and they basically will not talk to you on the phone. It's you have to explain your case through an email. They make a decision. It's basically yes or no, um, and they don't tell you why, what they came up with. So I won a card. I'm not going to tell you the exact value, but I spent over $1,000, uh, and uh, pretty shady on their end. I'll eventually share it once I come to the full resolution. I need to get the card back to kind of come to a full resolution on it. So I'm still kind of in the works on that, but that's probably further down the road that I'll fully resolve that. But I was trying to send them a signal. It's like, okay, um, you won't talk to me on the phone. Uh, I'd be people win some big cards on there, and if anything wrong goes down, they're not going to talk to you on the phone. So just be aware of that. Uh, I still bid on the auctions every week, so it's not like a hate relationship. It's like a love hate relationship. So just be aware of that. So that was a big step, is getting those 150 cards back. I have some cards at PSA. We'll talk about the PSA thing later. I want to try to keep track on my list. Uh, so then, how to manage, like, I've had an influx of 150 cards, credit cards. Um, and I've gotten better at listing them on eBay, but trying to sit down and list 20 graded cards can take a hot minute, especially if you want to price them right and all that stuff. So I've seen other people, and what they recommended is you just come up with a value of what's worth your time to like package up and ship yourself. And I came up with like $30. So basically, and I'll call it loosey goosey. So some cards went there that were worth 50, some worth 60, some worth 20, some worth 10. But basically anything 30 and under, I tried to send them. I sent them a bunch of cards, probably 200 in total. Um, and then with credit cards, the fees a little higher to upload them. So it's like a $1.50 a piece or something like that. You can catch promos and stuff and get it a little cheaper, but roughly it's a $1.50. And then if it's over $100, the fee goes up. It's like $2 to $3. So just be aware of that. Plus, there's the cost of shipping there. And then they also take a cut when they sell the card. It's somewhere around 5 to 10%. Um, and then the other kicker is if you want to take your cash out, they take another 10%. So the fees can be quite high. Uh, so I'm not crazy about that with the graded cards. So COMC with graded cards, I'm not there to recommend it right now. I mean, right now they have a special going on until July 11th. You can send in graded cards for free, um, but they're going to get your 10% for selling it plus the 10% when you try to take your cash out. So just be aware of that. It's like a 20% fee. Or if you just sell it yourself on eBay, it's a 13% fee. But then you got to do the work. So you're doing work for that 7%. Um, Raw cards, I would recommend them all day. Raw cards, $2 to $100. That's the way to sell a bunch. I don't really like shipping raw cards to customers or patrons or however you want to view that. It's just not my thing. So sending them there. The other thing with putting the graded cards on COMC is the inventory managers. It's pretty slick, but Like, no one can send you offers. No one can even message you like, "Hey, we're really close on price. Could you come down 5%? Or could you come down $5?" And that happens a decent amount to me on eBay. It's like I don't have best offers or anything like that. But on COMC, you don't get any of that because it's through their website. So there's no messaging system. Um, so then it's I feel like this getting sales is a little tougher. Um, so I've basically decided I'm not sending any more graded cards to COMC. But that means quite a bit more work for me at my house through this called consolidation purpose process. But that's okay because there's another reason why it's good to sell your cards yourself. And that's for me, it's building your brand. I'll show you. I put one of these in every of the card I sell, and then it has my eBay, Instagram, and YouTube. It's a little funny. These links on Instagram. I used to have my first and last name as my Instagram account. Now I have it as Just Man Sports Cards. So this link is kind of dead. And then eBay, I recently changed my name. It used to be like a clever play on my last name, products, but I've aligned that branding. And then YouTube, it this still should work. The YouTube link. So I'm trying to blow through these cards, but then I'm trying to build brand. So I have a chance to connect with everyone I sell a card to, and it's I had someone reach out to me today, and I always appreciate if you buy cards. I'm going to try to be as fair as I can on price. I might mispronunciate this. No, reached out to me. It was an awesome message to receive today. He got the package. I sold him a Gallery of Heroes. I love those cards. I have a lot in my collection. I've graded a bunch of them. I've sold it a decent amount. I really believe in those cards. They're just gorgeous cards. So appreciate you now. And that's just really awesome. It's like making that connection, building your brand, building connections in the future for down the road. Um, so another part of consolidation, we talked about COMC, building brand, is I set up some card shows this year. That's twofold. You're motivated to sell cards at those is, and I've said about them before, so I have a little better idea of what cards to bring, what cards to put out. I would say it took me like 3 shows to kind of get better at that. So this year was my fourth and fifth show. My fourth show, or my first one of this year, went really, really well. Um, but basically, you got to make the tables are 100 to $250 depending on where you set up. So then, say you have $100 card, probably the most you're gonna make on that is $50. If you've graded it and yourself and got a good grade, so you got to sell like probably at least $300 to $400 just to break even. So there's a motivation there uh, to maybe take even a little less. Some people aren't this way; they're just doing it for they're okay eating the $100 for the day. For me, it's like a motivation factor of being there and selling. But also being there is I don't have the opportunity to buy as much. So on those days, it's definitely cards out and no cards in. People come up, I have a little buying sign. But I'm really picky about what I buy. Uh, just because I'm in 90s and a lot of people aren't bringing 90s to card show. So this card shows are a positive. Um, I would say for anyone looking to do it, maybe start with smaller shows. They're gonna have less foot traffic, but you can get your feet wet. Do you have the right cards? And then you'll kind of realize like you need some bigger cards just to even help you make it. Dollar boxes can be okay. I don't. I'm trying to my opinion's changed on that a little bit. Um, so then, uh, where I've been aggressive is eBay. I've gone through and it was a month or two. Uh, I resell other stuff too, not a bunch, just kind of a side hobby. So I watch reselling videos on YouTube and take hints and stuff like that. And there's something to ending and relisting all your items. It gives you a chance to like look at your price, and you can see how long you've had it listed for. And like, why hasn't it sold over that time? Are you being aggressive enough with your price? So I've gotten pretty aggressive with my price on a lot of cards through this consolidation, especially this last 30 days. I've been pretty aggressive with pricing and moving stuff and sending offers and taking offers. Um, and that's been great. But I've had to be willing to on some cards I'm literally selling them for what I bought them for, and that could have been stuff I bought 2 to 3 years ago. And that's probably a good sign that like it should be something that's sold and consolidated. It's not appreciated. Um, and another thing that so I'm trying not to lose focus here. eBay. So just being aggressive with pricing, and then looking at how many listings there are. If there's 10 listings and there's four people that are cheaper than you, the odds that your card ever sells, it is just not likely. Those three might sell here and there, but then other people are going to come in and list around those prices, and then yours is going to sit in this limbo. I've seen other stuff with like Jordan as the market takes off, like maybe you catch the market as it takes off. Uh, that's the other thing I've learned listing a lot of cards on eBay is, man, people know this, but Jordan is so liquid. That's something I feel a little more comfortable about auctioning, but I don't auction. I've auctioned a little bit of his stuff. I've been running a little more auctions, just trying to bump up sales here a little bit. I rarely set like the 99 cent and let it rip. I should probably get better about that on some stuff, but I'm also trying to build up brand. There's people get used to seeing that I throw auctions up every once in a while, every other week or something like that, and then they are watching my eBay store for auctions. Um, so eBay is the way to go, in my opinion. You might have to be aggressive with pricing during the consolidation, especially if you're doing buy it nows, which that's 95% of what I'm doing. Then PSA, I have PSA cards at PSA Vault. I don't completely know how this works, but when you go in your vault and you're looking at the top, there's an offer section. So I don't know who has the ability to make these offers because I don't. I'm assuming I'm a good client, but for whatever reason, I'm not allowed to go and look at other people's collections and make offers. So I think that's something PSA should be being asked is why doesn't everyone have that ability? And probably because if people were to think about it, it would creep them out a little bit. It's like, why can't people see my collection? Um, but the cool thing with PSA offers, if it's not done through eBay, it's done strictly through their website, is they don't take any fees. Whatever the offer is, if you accept it, it's just like that's wire transferred right into your bank. And I'd say um, a lot of them are below what they sell for on eBay, but occasionally they get. I've had offers that once you take out the 13% that eBay takes, it's about the same or it's a little more. So I've accepted some of those to consolidate, right? Sales I have here. Uh, just comment down below. I could show you guys my and gals or whoever's watching this channel. It's mostly guys that can see the data. It's like 98% guys. Uh, I could run through and show you what I've sold the last 30 days. If you're curious of, I'm okay with being transparent. and then you can see what I'm kind of getting out of. Um, and that brings me to the other point is like I'm still buying, so this isn't like me exiting on the hobby or anything. I I'm much more picky, especially right now as I'm focused on this goal. And I think once I reach the 10% of I've already reached the 10% on the volume. I'm not at the 10% for the value yet. I think I'm going to go another 10% on both of them. And that's going to be my goal by the end of the year. So that over the course of this year, it'd be, I know I can hit the 20%. I just have to stay focused on the volume. I don't know if I'm going to hit the 20% on the value. Because essentially, I am consolidating and buying bigger cards. Uh, so if you want to see what I've been selling, I'll show that. I've been a little more hesitant to do mail days and stuff like that. Uh, I just recently did one, and I didn't completely show everything that I want. I showed like probably say 70% of what I won and had shipped to the house. Because it's odd. Like my YouTube channel is tiny, right? 1,300 subscribers. It's bigger than others. I'm very grateful for everyone that follows, likes, comments, or if you're just the quiet crowd and you don't say anything, you just watch. That's okay. Um, but as you talk about stuff, a big part of my channel has been like educating people on some of these rare cards. Is I've seen it on certain videos, like where I've talked about cards, is like sales on those cards that I talked about happen. Um, and then if those are cards I'm trying to buy too, then I'm kind of increasing the value of the stuff I'm trying to buy still. So then it's like you want to just talk about stuff that you're dumping. I don't think that's good either. So that's why I've always just tried to talk about what I'm collecting, so that it's transparent and honest. But I have a hesitation to show what I've fully been buying. Um, a lot of Jordan still. That's so, but man, Jordan has shot up his prices. I've been really wanting to win some cards, and man, like they're just going for all-time highs. And I think I've been really studying prices and stuff, and I think I just right now it's July. I don't know if this craze is going to stop, but I know for a fact stuff slips through the cracks from Thanksgiving to Christmas. Sometimes it's not a lot of cards, but on some of the big cards, they drop by 20%. And the struggle, I think, for everyone around that period, if you've been trying to go hard at that time, is like a lot of stuff is out there. It seems like it's going to go cheap, but then it's like, do you have enough firepower to win everything that you want to win at these great values? So I think that's where just being patient and saving some of that cash and that firepower and trying to wait out some of these high prices and maybe sell into some of these high prices. Um, and I mean, if I'm putting supply into the market, it should help moderate prices. So there's that to look at. Focus is more on going out and then yeah. And then the last thing I have is I did it. I just looked at it last week. It's Annie Duke wrote a really good book. It's called Thinking in Bets, but it's really just a lot about like awareness and um, you think you're doing something, but then if you don't truly know until you're fully analyzing it. So what do I mean by that? Like I have everything in an Excel spreadsheet. Um, Courtney, my partner, we run a small sock business together. Uh, we make pennies on it, but it's like a hobby. That's something that we do for fun. But just tracking everything is something she's taught me to be really good at. And so it's like, am I actually making progress on this? So then like what I've started to do is like every 7 to 10 days I go in and I look how many cards did I buy, how much did I spend, how much went out. And it can seem like a lot is going out, especially when sometimes you're selling these 20, $40 cards. And that can be the kicker with these $20 to $40 cards. It's like, man, if you buy a nice like $300 card, you gotta sell like 10 of these things to roll up into that thing. Uh, to the value piece. I think that's why the value piece has been so tough. Is like some of the stuff that I'm moving is in that $20 to $60 range. So then when I go out and buy a nice $300 card, and kind of why I'm using that number is if you've watched my top 50 videos, the numbers is I've made three of them now. I maybe made four, and then the bottom number to get into the top 50. I think it used to be like right at 200. And then the second year it was like 225, and then like I think it's up to like 280 now. And so it's as I'm consolidating is it's like something to think about is like is that something that's gonna crack into my top 50 cards? Um, is and I think about that, but I'm still buying. I mean, I just bought a lot from uh, Greg Morris on eBay. They had a bunch of auctions running, and I bought like six raw cards, and I think they were like $6 a piece. But the plan is to grade them, so I'm still doing that, uh, and then I'm still buying like min stuff to grade, but I'm starting to ramble. So we'll just stop it here. Hope everyone enjoyed the video, and let me know your thoughts on consolidation. But for me, it's a bitch. It's been much more fun since I'm making headway. But man, just looking around at the stuff I still need to list, and some days when I come home and I have like I had 6 orders to ship out today. It's stoked to do it because 6 cards are going out. I had one card come in, and I had a small wax. I'm buying these like uh, esoteric. I've been buying some Batman stuff. You saw the Batman video. I think all that stuff is way underpriced. But it's a sports card channel, but I like collecting that stuff. Anyways, still around. Peace.